Welcome to the Q&A. This has been a long time coming, I know. I apologize. A lot has happened in the past few months. I've moved house, I shaved my head for charity, and now it's time to lock back in for these podcasts. So thank you so much. If you're still here, I hope we haven't lost too many people because this is a really fun project of mine that I hope continues for a long time. So if you'll have me, let's continue. So the first question we have is from Martonic. Hey Minges, I'm really enjoying listening to your podcast with content creators. My question is, out of all the content creators you've interviewed, which episode of the podcast is your personal favorite? I'm sure this will be tough to pick. Wanting to share your podcast with content creators, which I know. Thanks. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Martonic, for submitting the question. If anyone does want to check out Martonic, he puts out a ton of great content himself. Well worth a follow. I follow him myself. Go check him out. So I've had this question pop up in my mind before, and some people have asked me this before. It's so hard to pick. It's kind of, I used the analogy once before. It's kind of like picking your favorite kid. It doesn't really, you can't. But at this stage, there's been 30 odd of them. So I think I can narrow it down to a few. I think the first one is from the first real streamer that I was part of the community, and I still haven't found anywhere else that I feel like I belong as much. And someone who did take a chance on me very early on to give me the opportunity to talk to them on the podcast, and that was Exact. I watch this man religiously. He is one of my favorite people out there, and it was just really good. The podcast itself, I think, turned out really well. He's a great speaker, but I think just personally having the opportunity to sit down and talk to him for an hour and a half was just, that was a buzz for me. It was amazing. We got to speak a little bit before and after the recording, just about things in general, and he had some really nice insights and things to say as well. So just on that personal level, getting to talk to someone like that, someone I look up to, was huge for me, and that's definitely one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites is the first episode I got to speak to Wampus, also known as Brandon, also the editor on the Unfiltered Podcast. At the time, it was my first real chance to sit down and talk to him. I was familiar with him, obviously, from the Exact community, and he's someone who I still look up to this day in the way he carries himself, the talent he has in editing, and he's a very genuine guy. I'm very proud of that interview as well, because it would be very easy to talk about simply his clients that he worked for, which at the time was like Joe and Exact, the two biggest ones. But he's also a content creator himself, and he's really stepped it up a notch. Since then, he's really gone on to produce a lot of his own stuff, which is great. And I thought it was really good to talk about his side of things more than just the names that he worked for. And it was very insightful. And it's one of those ones that it was very, very early on. I know my recording looks terrible, and it's probably not the best edited because I did it myself, but I'm still very proud of that one. And yeah, man, I mean, I love talking to the main event, Atlas. They were just like very genuine people. It was great to talk to them about all their insights. Breadman, he made me feel very much at ease. He's just a very chilled guy to talk to, and a great guy as well. Jay got as well. I mean, I hate to say anyone, like, just leave it at that. I want to keep going, and like, I've enjoyed every single one of them. It's hard to pick one. I'm sorry. Next one is from Brandon B. Unfortunately, he is also the editor, so we have to answer his questions. He says, hey Minges, you're an amazing host. I don't believe that, but I have some questions. Was there a particular guest that you were the most nervous for? I think it's hard to say which one I was most nervous for. I was nervous for a few of them for a few different reasons. I feel like I get more nervous if I think that I haven't prepared as well as I could have. That's definitely happened on one or two occasions. And it's not like I didn't put in the work. It just, something got in my head that, I forgot to research this, and maybe it just put me off my own balance and made me nervous. I think I'm more excited talking to people than nervous. If anything, I might have been nervous before the Fluid episode. It was Johnny and Choffa, where I was interviewing both of them at the same time, just because, I mean, it is just talking to two other people. But at the same time, I thought to myself, it's probably different hosting and trying to coordinate the conversations of two people rather than just one-on-one. So I was a little bit maybe nervous about that, but I think that turned out pretty well. They were a breeze to talk to as well. And I think it's just like anything else. Once you get the reps under your belt, it starts to feel more normal and maybe not maybe you don't get as nervous. Maybe you don't feel any nerves. The other question is, which podcast guest was the most difficult to have a conversation with? Now, I would say that there's been a couple people which I've found it difficult, but it's not because of them. I think it's because of me. I've always said from the start that I'm not the most natural speaker in the world. And I started this just as a way to try and practice conversations and have an excuse to try and put myself out there. And I think it's helped. I think I'm getting better. But also, you can't avoid sometimes that feeling that it doesn't flow naturally sometimes with conversation with some people. And I put that down to me. So I feel bad myself. I'm not sure if it comes across that way on camera. Just to be completely honest, the one with my friend Lebowski, just because he's probably a bit more the same sort of style of talking as me, maybe a bit more quieter and reserved. And it was hard for me to try and bring some stuff out of him because I understand that's what I'm like. And a little bit when I spoke to Ash Vanderlei, I think that I got in my own head about that one, thinking that she had all this media training and was like, at the time, as soon as it started, I think I either made a mistake or I said something wrong or something didn't come out right. And I got in my own head. And the conversation to me after that point, I didn't recover. And there's sometimes where that's happened mid-podcast with some people where something will happen and, you have to brush it off and move on. And with Ash, it happened right at the start. And to be honest, I think I got a bit flustered and I don't know, that conversation didn't feel smooth to me. Watching it back, it wasn't too bad. But at the time of recording and afterwards, I was very upset with myself, thinking that I really stuffed it up. Something you wish you would have asked a guest. There is not one podcast that has been and gone that I wish I had asked something to the guest. It's my one thing. I regret every episode I've missed an opportunity to ask them one thing in particular, and it always comes to me afterwards, and it's always something that I've had on my list. I always have notes. So for you guys, I have my notes across both monitors here. I'll have all the talking points, all the conversation points, lots of data about each person, all their facts, figures, and just things that I've picked up on that I want to touch on. Whether or not I get to use all that, usually never the case, but sometimes I miss something very, very obvious. I've got it in bold, highlighted, and it's in huge font, and I still miss it. And I can't believe it. Probably the biggest one for me is in Breadman's episode. I really wanted to talk about, and I even said it in the intro, about him being multifaceted where it comes to competing, building a community or something, and being a businessman. And I just did not bring up the fact that he launched his own brand of clothing. And I really wish I posted in the comments right after. I apologized to him after as well. I really wish I brought that up, and I just wish every single podcast there's at least one or two things that I wish I asked the guests, and that's probably the one that sticks out to me the most. Last time probably in nappies. I don't know, man. I don't know. Thank you so much for your questions, B, but let's just leave it at that, okay? Next one, a question for Mr. Mark. What is the 3 proudest moments of your life? So a personal question. This is, I think the proudest moments, I think the more and more we go, the more I realize how proud I am of my kids. And it's both proud of them as the people that they're developing into. I hear them say things and talk about things and ask questions, or they'll have a moment where they express themselves in a way that I can't imagine myself ever doing as a kid, or that I ever did have the ability to think that way. And I'm very proud of them every single day that happens, and that is a continual progress. So was proud of them at things they were doing at 2 years old, 6 months old, now at 6 and 7 years old, and I'm sure that's going to continue. There are a lot of things that I've done in my personal life where sporting memories and titles that we've won as a team, moments that I've had individually in those games, and things like that. Definitely there's a lot of those that I'm proud of. I can't think of anything in particular, and nothing stands out to me more than me being proud of my kids and how they're turning out. So that's what I have to leave it at. Next one from Josh. Question for the pod. What 3 pieces of key advice would you now offer to an aspiring content creator based on the extensive knowledge gained from speaking to all of the legendary Unfiltered guests? There have been a lot of legendary Unfiltered guests, and every single one of them I think have provided something that is of value to anybody who's aspiring to be a content creator or anything of the nature. Definitely go watch them all. Go watch them all back and get back to me with what you guys think is some great advice. But I think one that is pretty much universal across the board is if you're a streamer, you have to create content outside of streaming. You can't just go blindly streaming for 8, 9, 10 hours a day and expect that to be the way that you explode. You need to put in the time to make shorts, TikToks, Instagram reels, YouTube videos, all of that to build your stream, your community. Networking is very important as well. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and get to know other people. And it's without being weird about it, like, hey, I stream, come follow me. No, that's not how it works. Get to know people, get to know their stories. They'll be there for you. If you open up to them, just be there for other people. The last piece of advice I would say is not to be too hard on yourself. I think it's very easy to get caught up in, I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, I should be doing more, things should have worked already for me now, what's the world's against me, all that. Sometimes the best thing to do is take a step back, take a breather, and get some perspective and just say, these are the things I need to work on, these are the things I do well, I'm actually doing a good job, and just keep at it. Of course, I am no expert. I am learning as I go, and I have really enjoyed all of these conversations that I've had with these amazing people who have all had something that I've taken and tried to implement myself, things that I'm learning, and I'm glad that I can put it out there to the world on the Unfiltered Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and all those things. But also take the information in myself personally. So it's a buzz for me to be able to speak to these people one-on-one and take in their advice. It's been very refreshing and very insightful. I've enjoyed every single moment, and I hope you guys have done the same. If you have made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Our winner of the Q&A is Sides. He has won the gift card over on Amazon. Thank you so much for all the submitters. You can join the Patreon as a free member and unlock a ton of other content from the creators that we've had on so far. That's one of the extra ways that you can help support the podcast, and there is no pressure. You don't have to join, but we are trying to build a little community over there, and I'm thankful to all of those who have been there so far. As for future guests on the podcast, I am continually looking around. I'm always watching people, seeing what they're doing, seeing if they're doing something unique, and I'm always open to suggestions for who you guys want to see on the Unfiltered Podcast next. Please let me know. Let them know about the podcast. I need them to know who I am first, because I am cold calling, reaching out to all these people. I do get ignored a lot, which is tough, but it's part of the process, and it just makes it all the more sweet when the legends who have come on so far, they've all replied and have all been really cool about it. And I appreciate every single one of them. I appreciate every single one of you who are watching this video right now and any of the other previous episodes on the channel. My name is Minges, and I'll catch you in the next one.